Thailand's Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra says she's willing to do anything to stop the violent protests that have engulfed her country for more than a week. But the opposition leader trying to depose her stoked the fires of protest among his followers, vowing to ramp up his campaign to topple her government. Monday, demonstrators fought riot police all day at heavily barricaded government buildings. Some of the rallies have drawn crowds of more than 100,000. Across Thailand in the last 3 days alone, at least 3 people were killed and some 200 injured. For the latest on the unrest that's threatening Southeast Asia's second largest economy, we go to James Monroe Adams IV reporting from Bangkok. James, thank you so much for being with us here on Arise America. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know that it's a completely different time of day, if not a different day there now than it is here in New York City. But what has the day been like? Have the protests leveled off, or is there still some level of unrest?
There is definitely still continued intensity. During the evening, there apparently were cars set on fire in front of the government house, which is right now the main focal point of the protests led by Suthep Thaugsuban. I haven't heard of any fatalities or injuries during the evening, but there were definitely people out basically throwing rocks and other projectiles at cops and setting vehicles on fire in the area near the government house. Yes.
James, can you tell me where the violence has been centered or located? As I understand it, it's not all throughout Bangkok, but where has it been located mainly?
It's primarily in the area in I guess downtown Bangkok. I believe it would be the Old City, one of the oldest sections of Bangkok, and it is where all of the legislative offices are located. The government house is one site. There was also a protest 2 days ago in front of the Ministry of Police. And various other ministries, important ministries that are critical for the functioning of the country. These have been the main targets of the protests. They are kind of dispersed throughout Bangkok, but right now, most of the violence is taking place at the government house, which is essentially downtown Bangkok. Right now, where I'm staying, though, it's quite calm. Yesterday, there were people out on the streets shopping in the main shopping districts, and you would barely be able to tell that an event of this magnitude was going on.
I understand that there was a curfew that was put into place, so it sounds like if it's calm now that people have adhered to that curfew or not?
Maybe in the outlying areas of Bangkok in which there is no violence occurring, but from what I understand, people were still at the government house, the main site of the protests, pretty much all night.
All right, James Monroe Adams IV reporting from us live from Bangkok. James, thank you so much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We also have on the phone Ian Asvakovith, who is the president of the Thai Alliance in America. Ian, thank you so much for being with us here on Arise America. I want to talk about the reason for this protest. If you will, give us some perspective about what the demands of the protesters are and sort of where this all started.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for having me, and good evening to all your viewers. Well, the protest has started about a few weeks ago when the Thai government has introduced the amnesty bill that was set to pass the parliament and get approved to allow the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to be able to return back to Thailand. So it was a controversial bill that a lot of people didn't see that was a good thing, so they started to take it to the street. Just like any protest that we have here in the United States, I think everyone has a right to march or assemble and basically voice their opinion. But I think the situation has escalated to the next step where people start to cutting electricity, occupy government houses, and it's more than just a peaceful protest, and now it turned a little bit violent. So we're here in the United States as Thai Americans a little bit concerned about the situation there in Thailand.
It is just a little bit confusing for those of us on the outside who are looking in. Prime Minister Yingluck has said she's willing to do anything to stop the violence and to bring back peace, of course, with the exception of stepping down. So much of this is being instigated by the protest leader Yusuf Thogsaben, if that's how you say it. Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
So Mr. Sutep Turksuban was former members of parliament, or is an equivalent of a congressman here in the United States. He's also was a former vice prime minister in the former administration. It's important to note that the current government is an elected government official that came from a democratically elected election a few years back. So it's not unconstitutional for somebody to just have a protest and kick out the government that's being installed by the people. So I think there are ways that we can do in order to compromise and negotiate or have a more open dialogue. I think one thing that we could learn from a recent government shutdown here in the United States is that if you have two opposing views that are not willing to compromise, things aren't getting done and people are going to suffer. I think it's important for us to kind of compromise and hopefully the people of Thailand will be able to find some sort of resolution in a peaceful way.
Ian, as I understand it, you have family and perhaps even friends in Thailand. Can you tell me in a general sense what the sentiment is publicly about this protest? It seems that the protests are isolated in specific areas. Generally, how does the public feel about this opposition?
I think you can say that it's pretty much a bipolar issue. I mean, if I log into my Facebook account, a lot of my friends are either for the government or the anti-government, and there's nothing in between. I think it's very bipolar issue. So some people in the same family may have different views, just like some of the issues that we have here too. So it's normal in the democratic country for people to have different views. But yeah, it is a very bipolar issue. One of my employees just came back from Thailand from her vacation, and she said that certain parts of Bangkok are definitely very heated. Outside of Bangkok or any other parts of Thailand is very normal. She visited her family in Chiang Mai, and there was no protests or any sort of violent demonstration going on. So I think it's just very contained in certain parts of Bangkok.
Would you find that this, to use your word, this dichotomy, you used actually bipolar, but this dichotomy in feelings about either being pro-government or anti-government has to do with regions? As I understand it, it's the rural areas that are pro-government or supporters of Prime Minister Yingluck and her brother. It's the more urban and perhaps even middle class that is supporter of the opposition. Would that ring true to you?
Generally speaking, I think you can classify it as that. I mean, although I know some people in the rural area are for the anti-government, and the rural area, depending on the regions of Thailand that you're talking about, I think the northern part may be more on the pro-government side as opposed to the southern part of Thailand, who may be the anti-government supporters. So I think it's hard to say rural versus urban. I think it's certain parts of Thailand, maybe it's a regional thing. But even within the region, there are some anti-government versus support of the government. So, but this issue is not something that's just recently happened. It's obviously part of something that's been going on for quite some time. If you can recall, the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was ousted from a military coup back in 2005, and since then, I think the country has been going through an evolution of a struggle between different parties and different powers. So. Thailand has been in the democratic country since maybe like around 1930, so it's been about 80 years. So we still consider ourselves a young democratic country. So I think this is part of growing up that Thailand has to face.
Growing pains indeed. Ian Asvakovith, thank you so much for your time and perspective. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Debbie.